This is the podcast that we ask our guests from in front and behind the camera, how did they get their foot in the door? What was the key to unlocking their success? What's their story?
What's a gun doing in your trousers?
For protection.
Protection from what? The Germans?
You may know our first guest from Snatch, This Is England, and Pirates of the Caribbean, or perhaps Boardwalk Empire, Peaky Blinders, or Venom. We chat about flying out to meet Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro, his advice to fellow actors, and scaring Al Pacino. Our second guest is a versatile actress on the rise, from the National Theatre's The Crucible, starring alongside Jude Law in Firebrand, and playing Princess Anne in The Crown. We chat about her passion for immersing herself in different roles and different characters, and then working together in their new show, 1,000 Blows, from Stephen Knight, the creator of Peaky Blinders. Our guests today are actors Stephen Graham and Erin Doherty.
My podcast is usually about how people's careers begin and those stepping stones. And I know that, obviously, Stephen, you started out in the 90s. I mean, Dancing into the Dark was one of your first Heartbeat, those things.
Through the dark.
How? But I want to know how you got Dancing Through the Dark. How that first moment, that first job, that first audition, the beginning of your career.
It kind of, I was very, very, very blessed and very fortunate. My mum and dad just completely believed in allowing me and supporting me in whatever it was I wanted to do. A lot of my mates had posters of footy players on the walls and wanted to be footy players. I had Kenny Dalglish posters and when Liverpool were super solid back then. I had them pictures on my wall as well. But I also, because my dad used to buy Empire magazine, I also had lovely little postcard images of Al Pacino and Robert De Niro and Gary Oldman and Daniel Day-Lewis. Do you know what I mean? I'd watched, as Erin said, I learned a lot through films. Do you know what I mean? And I studied films hugely without even knowing it subconsciously. I was taking in so much from watching all of these great films and these wonderful performances. And then I was advised by a local actor who, to me, is still my ultimate hero, Drew Schofield, who was in a program when I was a kid called Scully, and it was on the telly every week. So it was one of those situations. He lived across the road from me, nanny, so I could see Drew daily and weekly going to the van and walking about. But then I'd see Drew on the telly, so it showed me that it was achievable. Because if I can see Drew here now doing this thing which I love and I would love to do, and yet he's over there walking down with the shopping, do you know what I mean? Because he's just such a wonderful man. I'd be like, oh wow, and I'd knock and he'd give me little bits of advice, and he advised my mum and dad to take me to the Everyman Youth Theatre, and that's how it began for me. I went there when I was 14, the youth theatre, and the youth theatre basically, it transformed and it changed my life massively. And they used to come in and do little auditions in there, and through that I got in with the National Youth Music Theatre, and they came in. I did a bit on children's ward. We didn't have an agent, but people would come and audition us. And we learned how to improvise in there, and we learned how to, deconstruct plays and stuff like that. And it was amazing. And them opportunities for me came through the Everyman Youth Theatre. So without that, I don't think I would have been able to do the things that I managed to do. And as well, during the summer holidays, we devise a piece ourselves. So we spent the whole of the summer holidays, I get a bus into town. Do you know what I mean? From the age of 14 round to 18. And that's where I spent my summer holidays.
Wow. It's so, when you hear it like that and you see where you are now, it's kind of mad how you could have gone in a completely different direction. If you didn't see that one thing or that person didn't influence you there, it's a real sliding doors moment, that.
Oh God, honey. Oh, she's not there. Where is she? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
I don't know how I'll get back on picture though. Sign up, Zoom.
We can hear you. We can see you. Yeah.
I can't see you or either. I don't like it. Sorry. Okay, go on. I'll listen now. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. I was going to say, you did mention there that there's people that influence you at that time. Looking at people like Gary Oldman, Al Pacino, and you've worked with some of these people. What is that at the top?
Sorry, hang on a minute.
It's all good.
What's going on?
I can already see the edit. Like,
This is fantastic.
well, Erin, while you're here and he's taming the dogs, can I ask you how it all began for you?
Yeah. So basically, my mum and dad broke up when I was 4 and my sister was 6, and I think out of that they kind of just put us into this like weekend drama thing. And so it's just kind of been a part of my life, and I think something in me really loved having that outlet of expressing yourself in a safe environment. And I think, yeah, maybe it was clearly subconscious, but there was just something that got locked into place. And I feel so lucky that I get to do it, because I've never imagined my life without it. Like, from as young as I can remember, it's been, as I say, an outlet of sorts. And I remember like people like at school, like when you'd have like career days and stuff, and I was just like, well, no, I'm gonna go to drama school. Like, I was always just like, I actually hated school because I couldn't wait to get to that point of learning about what I knew I wanted to do. So, and yeah, I never took it for granted, but it was just like in me. I was just like, well, I have to do this.
Have to do it.
Yeah, I just feel really, really lucky that I was exposed to that when I was so young, that it just kind of, it was like undeniable. Like, I just had to do it.
It's that thing of, I think it was Steve Martin that said it, be so good that they can't ignore you. And it's like, if you have that passion and that, you know, determination, it's, you know, that's what you want to do and that's what you have to do. You just got to get better and better and better. And as you know, Stephen was saying, you know, observation of people and learning and taking everything in on that journey, and trying to, you know, just get your foot in the door, I think, is the hardest thing. Stephen, before the dogs went wild, I was just going to ask, because you mentioned you mentioned there that, you know, the people that you looked up to, and one of them being Al Pacino, which is obviously someone that you've worked with on The Irishman, and your performance in that was just incredible. And I remember watching, like, rooting for you, because I was like, this guy's English, like, he's playing this American role, like, he's opposite Al Pacino. It's kind of like the dream for a British actor. And I know you've done a lot of amazing parts and amazing films, but for some reason watching that, I was like, holy shit, he's made it. Do you know what I mean? He's opposite someone like Al Pacino. Working with someone like that, what is that? Is that, do you kind of, are you acting with them and you're suddenly watching them?
Yeah, no, we're back. Sorry, go on. I'm sorry.
That's all good. I was just going to say, when you're doing a scene with someone like that, is it surreal? Like, do you kind of suddenly feel like, oh, hang on, I've got to act now. I'm not watching TV. This is happening.
Well, there was, I mean, one of the biggest things about that was when I was 15, I think, maybe 16, and I said to my dad, I said, I want to do this properly. This is what I want to do, you know, as Erin was just saying. And my dad was like, okay, come on. And we went to the video shop, and he got me, back in the days when it was a video shop, it wasn't even Blockbusters, it was a little one, body green video shop. And we rented out The Deer Hunter, Taxi Driver, and The Godfather. And I just spent the weekend watching them films. And then we watched them, and he was like, okay, so that's it. That's how it's done properly. And I was like, oh, wow. And that's my moment where I think I fell in love with film. And then we used to watch lots of different, you know, like Curry Sour, and my dad used to really, we'd sit and watch films together. That was one of the passions we had together, and we still have it today, actually, which is beautiful. You know what I mean? So when I got that phone call from, which is weird even saying these names, isn't it? When I got that phone call from Marty, who I've worked with a couple of times before, and he was like, look, we've got this thing, but do you mind coming over? You're going to have to fly over to New York to meet Bob, because Bob is one of the executive producers on it, and, you know, he has the final say. And I was like, okay. And I'll never forget it, because we were filming The Virtues at the time, and I had a weekend break. And I remember saying to Shane and to Mark Herbert, a wonderful producer, I was saying to them too, oh, he said, all right, I might be a bit late on Monday because I want to fly to New York. And he was like, oh, yeah, what for? And I explained it, and he was like, oh, you could, of course, yes. So I flew anyway, and I went and I went to Marty's house, and I met Bob. He came in, and then, and you know, and the wonderful Ellen Lewis, the casting director.
Oh wow, yeah.
She said, look, he mightn't be that conversational. He's kind of quite reserved. And I was like, okay. All right, yeah, we'll be all right. Anyway, 2.5 hours later, they were like, right, we need to get you out. You need to go and catch a flight to get back. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I turned around to him because we'd had a look at it, you know, it'd been an amazing time. We'd had a wonderful conversation and stuff. And I said to him, I said, well, no, I can't get off. You've got to let me know. He's like, what do you mean get off? And I went, I can't leave. You know, I forget sometimes I'm so scoused. But when I can't leave, you're going to have to tell me, have I got the part? Oh, no, I can't fly home and like be waiting. And he was like, oh, okay, leave it with me. And I was like, what? And he went, just wait outside for a bit. And I was like, and I'm outside and I was still vaping then, so I'm panicking and all that. And then anyway, and then they call me in and he goes, right, I'll let Marty tell you. And I was thinking, I'm going to be let down gently. And Marty just went, okay, kid. So, do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. What, are you kidding me? And I was like, can I do it? And he was like, yeah. And the two of them, right? And it was like, I felt like I was in my own fucking Goodfellas or something because the two of them come and I got like, and they give me a hug. Do you know what I mean? And I hugged the two of them separately, and I was kind of in this like three-way hug with the two of them. And my little head's going, what's going on here? And then, but I was kind of like, I felt like I'd been a made man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Welcome to the family. And I was like, wow. And then that was kind of it. And on set with them, they were both, Robert De Niro and Al Pacino were both so generous. There was no ego whatsoever. They created a platform and they allowed me to bring whatever it was that I wanted to bring to the table. To the extent where, you know, there was a moment in the scene where he turns up late, and this is where my head kicked in a little bit. I don't know if I ever told you that story, Aaron, but I was in the scene and Robert De Niro had no lines, and I'm doing a scene, and like, you know, sometimes your head can pop back in, and your own voice goes, "Oh shit, what are we doing? What's happening?" You're like, "Get away! I don't need you right now." So you go back into it, and my head popped in and went, "Oh no, there's Robert De Niro in a scene with you." And I was like, "Shut up, get away!" And he's like, "No, he doesn't even say nothing. That's a shame." And I was like, and I looked at him and was like, "It's Robert De Niro, it's Al Pacino." And then the next minute, Marty went, right, we need to change it up a little bit. And then he went, come here. And I went, what? He went, just improvise. Just go in there and improvise. And I went, can I? He went, yeah, just do something. I was like, okay. So then I went back in, and I think he came up with the best line in the whole scene. I'm doing the scene, and then I turned around, I looked right at him, and I went, what do you think, Frank? And he just went, maybe 11.5, because we were talking about the time. And he came up with the best line. And then it all came alive again. And then at the end of that scene, I went back out and I went to get over and attack him and stuff. And at the end of that scene, I went over and I went, look, sorry about that. And he was like, what, you kidding me? It was great. It came alive, didn't it? How did you? And I was like, yeah, that was great. And then Marty just gave me a little tap on the shoulder and went, see, well done. I was like, so they allowed me to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. They created that freedom in order to play with it. It was a wonderful experience. It really was. And something that I will never forget. You can imagine that phone call to my dad telling him that day, you know what I mean?
Surreal, very surreal. That's crazy.
I mean, you just never know what can happen. Do you know what I mean? That's the key.
That's amazing. And it's great to hear that. And I'm sure a lot of actors will listen to this and be like, you know, live in that moment, hearing it, because that's what everyone hopes for. You're going to be on a set like that and working with people like that. Yeah, that's incredible. That scene in The Irishman where you go mad at Al Pacino, he looks like he shits the bed. I love that.
He wasn't expecting that neither. I didn't tell anyone I was going to do that. I remember when I was reading it with Hannah, and I snatched the paper off, and she went, "What are you doing?" And I went, "I'm gonna knock it out of his hand." She went, "What?" Well, I'm gonna knock it out of his hand, and she went, "Oh, okay." And then I did it on the day, and then I came home and told her, and then when she seen it, she went, "Oh, okay." So I had a little planned idea to try and frighten them. Do you know what I mean?
I love
But I
that.
didn't really frighten
Love
them.
that.
So.
Now for a quick break. We'll be back to the episode shortly. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, get early access and exclusive content and episodes, click to join our YouTube channel and become a member now. Please leave us a positive rating. Add us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Life in Film Pod. Essentially, please like and subscribe everything. It makes a huge difference. Thank you. This podcast is sponsored by Betterhelp. Do you work in the film industry? Are you freelance? Or perhaps you have a 9 to 5? No matter what you do, mental health affects us all. I struggled early on in my career with the uncertainty of if and when I would ever work again, struggling to pay my bills, or simply with anxiety. Don't know about you, but being an actor, it's very important for me to maintain structure in the downtimes, and I found not only exercise, but talking to someone, for me, was a game changer. And so Life in Film has partnered with Betterhelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, Betterhelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, Betterhelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. That's betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. And back to the show.
I've watched a couple of episodes of the show. They've only let me see 2. I'm gutted because I'm like in now. Love the show so far. How with something like this? I mean, it's got a great team behind it. It's the creators of Peaky Blinders. But like when you come and you get the, amazing roles like this, how do you prep for something like this?
Who wants to go first?
Go on, Erin. You go.
All right. Well, for me, the process is always freaking out. That's number one. And then you just kind of have to get over yourself. And for me, it was kind of a treat that Mary really existed. So I think you kind of start there and you go, okay, what exists? And that kind of created the backbone for Mary. But there's not a lot of emotional substance out there about her. It's just factual. She robbed this thing at this time. Like she went to prison for this thing at this time. So that kind of formed the structure that then I got to fill in the gaps, which was kind of a beautiful mesh of two things, like imagination and just digging. So that's it, like for me. And then you kind of bring your stuff on day one and see what other people are doing, and you just let it live.
Well, the 40 Elephants is kind of this, it's quite a famous thing in London in the in the 19th century, and I know your character's real, but Stephen, is your character based on a real person as well?
Yeah, completely. And you say creators of Peaky Blinders, however, there was only one, which is Steve Knight. So, and it's kind of how this whole thing came about. Do you know what I mean? Hannah, the brains of the organization, the wonderful Hannah Walters, my missus, thankfully, she reached out to Steve and said, "Look, we've been sent this idea, and I think it's magnificent. Would you really look at it?" And at first, I just thought, "What? You're being ridiculous. There's no way he's even going to give it a second glance." But she was right, as she is with many things I say from a proper point. Yeah. She's mostly right most of the time, 99.9.9.9% of the time. And he loved it because originally it all began with a photograph of Hezekiah, this beautiful image of this wonderful black man who came over, from Jamaica during the 1800s, and it was a photograph of Hezekiah with literally a paragraph of his history and what he did while he was over here. And then there was just 2 paragraphs of Sugar Goodson and Treacle Goodson, who were brothers. And it was just 2 paragraphs about them, that they were bare knuckle fighters and they worked in the industry of promoting fights back in the day. And that's basically all it was. And then Steve's beautiful imagination, he always had this idea to create a story for the 40 Elephants. So he felt this was his perfect opportunity to marry both of these things together. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got such magnificent actors as Erin and Malachi and all of those wonderful women involved in the 40 Elephants. You just, it's basically what Erin said. we get given this information, we have a look at it, we take from it what we want as actors, and we try and stay true to certain aspects. But there's only literally a paragraph about these people, and like like Erin so rightly said, there's incidents what they did along their timeline of their life, and that's it. And the rest you can embody and you can create, and you bring your colour to the table, and then when you're there with the rest of the actors, you just paint together, and you come up with this wonderful, menagerie of beautifulness. Really, that's it. That's basically what it is. You just play.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful looking show, and as you said, the cast's incredible. And I'm just gutted because I've got to wait now until I see the rest of it. But I want to say, I see, Stephen, I saw you at a press junket a while back for Boiling Point, and I remember thinking, he's stacked. Why is he so stacked? And it's obviously for this. I can't believe the shape that you've got in for this. I mean, that's obviously part of the preparation for a character, but I mean, what was that like? And are you keeping it up?
Yeah, I am actually. I'm on a cut in January, so I'm going to sit down again. It was a wonderful thing, Look, I was 50 when we made the program, and personally, I think I was in the best condition I've ever been in my life. It was a conscious decision of like, okay, so I'm playing a fighter, a bare knuckle fighter from back then. How do I wish to try and look? And I worked very closely with an amazing coach. Rob was my physical coach, and also with the food and everything. And I worked very closely with a boxing trainer, Graham, who were fantastic, and they just managed to get me into this condition. What we wanted to do was kind of create. I didn't want to have a modern physique. I wanted to try and look like he lifts barrels and he shifts hay bales, and just a practical working man who throws punches and stuff. And then it was all about finding the style of our fight. So we mixed Mike Tyson with Lenny McLean in that kind of essence of I'm obsessed. I love boxing, so we combined those two styles together, and it was great. You know what I mean? It was really good for my head, for my mental well-being. It was great for my discipline. But I trained 5 times a week, and it was the training aspect which was the easiest thing. It was the eating the food which was the hardest. That 5 meals a day was a killer at times. You know what I mean?
Just chicken breast, just
loads of chicken and broccoli and rice. Yeah, that was
yeah.
Erin used to see me. I'd be in my trailer like that. I'd come across to it and go, "What have you got there?"
Just have a look. Yeah. And Erin, this role is. Compare this to your role in The Crown to this. Very, very different. And in terms of, this is a completely different world. And I was so shocked to see you in this being so different. Out of those two roles, which is easier to which is further from you and which is harder to prepare for?
Princess Anne is 100%.
I was thinking probably,
elsewhere. That was why, it's kind of even now I still look back and I'm like, how the hell did I do that? It's just, but that's the joy of acting, and why I love it so much is that actually once you really put aside your initial perspective of someone, we're all just people. And so that was the joy of that job, of being like, right, okay, how do I give this woman a heart and find her vulnerabilities? And that was the get-in for me. And then I ended up really, really enjoying myself. But at start, I felt like a huge imposter, which again, I think is part of the lesson of being get out your own way and just focus on the job at hand. And actually, you'll find that there's connections in everyone. And it's kind of, that's again, what I really love about what we do is it really opens your eyes as to how similar we all are. And what we're the stuff that we go home and think about is probably all around the same area. We all have the same worries, the same fears, the same wants. And, but yeah, Anne was definitely, it took a while to really, really get underneath her. But this was a joy, because I think for that reason, I think a lot of people saw me and that was oh, okay, that's what you do. And so it took a while to kind of get off the kind of princess offers and be no, that's really, really not who I am or what I want to do. But also just, I'm interested in playing different people all the time. So this was a real treat to kind of sink my teeth into. And yeah, like Stephen said, I think it it was the other women, and like the minute that we all got together, and you were just like, oh my god, this is going to work. There's something really special here. And yeah, so I was kind of completely, like to say, I brought what I brought on day one, but I was completely inspired by those women and what they brought, and then that was the gang that was created, and that was really, really just magic to be a part of.
I've really noticed straight away. I mean, obviously those two roles are so different, but like this character has such a physicality about her. She has like a swagger, you know, and it's enjoyable to watch. You're like, what
Funny
is
story about that.
Yeah.
I had no idea I was doing it. All of a sudden, everyone was like, oh, I really like what you're doing with Mary's Walk. And I was like, what do you mean, Mary's Walk? And then, like, all of a sudden, I was like, oh, shit, yeah, like I am. But then I feel like that's like the joy of being like, all of a sudden you realize you're inhabiting these people in a way that you could never have planned. Like I didn't go home and think, right, this Mary she needs something in the way she moves. And no, actually, like I think for me, I'm an inside out actor. And it's whatever works for you. But for me, I think if I get the psychology right, then the way it then manifests kind of reveals itself to you. And yeah, it was like a couple of weeks in that everyone was like, Mary's Walk is wicked, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I love that. You touched on it a little bit there. Do you have advice for actors, you know, trying to get their foot in the door, get the first audition, get the agent, you know, whoever wants to go first?
Go on, Stephen.
Patience, perseverance, and that kind of, you know, that self-belief in your own ability to an extent, before the ego controls it all. And just look, when I hand wrote, and I always say this, and I said this to our Alfie and to our Grace, you know what I mean? Irrespective of what profession it is, I hand wrote and I'm dyslexic, but I hand wrote, I think it was 72 or 78 letters to different agents and sent me photo out back in the day when you'd have to do that. I mean, I was terrible on I think we did have computers back then, but I didn't have a clue, do you know what I mean? So I hand wrote 72 letters. 78 letters, sorry, and sent out the pictures and all that, and just sent them out with like hope. Do you know what I mean? Look, I was a student as well, so I didn't have loads of dough, so the stamps cost shit loads of money. Do you know what I mean? And I sent them out, and I got 2 replies out of all of them 78. I only got 2 replies, and one was a cooperative agency. I don't know if they still exist anymore, but one was a cooperative agency, and one was a really small agency. I ended up going to meet both of them, and I went with the cooperative agency because I felt I could learn more about the industry then. And also that was a really enjoyable experience, that. And I used to get, I don't know if they still do it. Did they still do that PCR? Remember the thing that it was like this red paper thing where you got all of the auditions that were coming up and were available.
Right.
So you got to read what they were looking for. And
Is that kind of Spotlight? It's like that's the modern equivalent, I guess.
I suppose so. Spotlight still existed, but it was love. Was it called PCR, or have I made that up?
PCR, yes, it was PCR.
It was like a casting, but it was red, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was it was. It was red and black.
It was
a piece of paper.
It was a piece of paper with all these different things on, and you'd have a look, and you'd be like, "Oh, there's a play audition," and you'd send off for that.
Yeah.
So I suppose, my advice would be knock down shitloads of doors. Just keep knocking. Do you know what I mean? Keep knocking and always believe in your dream, because you never know what can happen round the corner. But that patience and perseverance is a big one. And just knock on doors. Kick them in as well if you have to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now it's completely changed. You can create your own content. There's a different avenue that we never had. Do you know what I mean? So that be pushy, be bold, be confident in many ways. You know what I mean? But 100%. Also have skin like a rhino.
Yeah. 100%.
And I'm not being disrespectful. Sitting on the other side of it now as well, on the other side of the fence. Some of these, be careful what words you use. Some people have made a decision as you walk through the door.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you have to carry on. I've done many of them things where you've gone, in your head, you've gone, there's no fucking way these want me for this. But you still have to, I will show my words. Here I go. I am a monkey. I shall perform. You know what I mean? You still have to do that because, yeah, you may think that, and they may not. And again, those kind of things like, well, you wasn't right for this role, but we'd really like you to look at this role. You never know what can happen in them situations.
100%. 100%. That's brilliant. Erin, what advice would you give?
I mean, yeah, that is everything essentially. But I'd also just add on to it, like, stay in tune with like what's out there. Like, go watch theatre, go watch all the films. Like, just stay connected to what people are making, because one, that like creatively inspires you, but also it, like, I don't know. For me, I found it like takes the pressure off, because then you feel like you're a part of something. Like, whether you're working or you're not, you're like. And it's true, like, you have space. So just like Stephen was saying, have the confidence in that. But I think when you know what's going on, it's easier to hold that for yourself and be like, go in and chat about this thing or this thing. And I think there's something in creatively connecting and staying connected, because it's really easy to just go into yourself and be like, well, what am I doing? What do I need to bring? And actually, like Stephen said, half the time, like, luck is preparation meeting opportunity. Like, you've got that down. So actually, the more that you can stay out of your head and just be present, you're there.
100%. Yeah, don't get in your own way.
Well, sorry. What I would say now as well, though, to add to both of them things, is get a little book. Bang some ideas down, do you know what I mean? Because you never know when you will have the opportunity to put them forward as well. And if you have the capability to, like, I know what Erin said about, like, how she works internally and then externally it happens and it appears. I am very similar, but I nick walks. I'm constantly watching people, so I constantly nick a walk at a train station or something. Airport, I'm like, boom, got right, register, log that one, boom, that can go away. Do you know what I mean? So
nice.
Constantly observe and use your surroundings and write things down. Be creative in your own aspects. Do you know what I mean? And what you can do, the things you can have control of, be in control of them. Read more, absorb more, learn more, understand the craft. You can get better at something without actually being there out there doing it. On the job learning is the best thing you can ever get. Don't get me wrong. But you can also, you can make this fucking muscle better. Do you know what I mean? And you can get more culture. You can get more creative. So the things that, and some of them these days, you don't, you know, it's not financial neither. You have the internet. You can absorb, read plays, learn about it, study the craft as best as you can. Really treat these times of leniency when you're not really doing anything. When you're you know, the journey may be a bit lean. Treat it like an opportunity to absorb and treat it like your own apprenticeship in many ways. Until you get that little opportunity in a theatre, or you get that little short film, or you get those bits where you can start to step on those ladders. But in the meantime, create, use the, you know, keep the imagination going, scribble shit down, bang ideas down. If you know, see a situation, write a conversation of how you think that situation might be. Get it out of your head and put it on paper. Get yourself a little book, a A4 book from W.H. Smith's or something. Do you know what I mean? And just scribble ideas, just scribble stuff down. Because you never know when it may be needed. Most embarrassing moments,
Oh God. In an audition. I'm not sure. Bloody hell.
Put you on the spot now.
Yeah. An embarrassing one. I mean, half the time you just, well, I don't know, like I'll prep for an audition like I'm going to go in doing the part, because then it's the easiest way to leave it behind. But I don't know, I guess like Stephen kind of touched on, there are times when you walk in and you've made your choices and you can just feel that it's not what they want. So but in a way, like, you have to just kind of go in 10 times stronger, because you're like, well, it's an offering. And most of the rooms you get into, do you know what I mean? They're lovely anyway. You'd hope that they're lovely and they're encouraging of your creative expression. And so, but sometimes, yeah, I don't know. I don't have like a specifically embarrassing thing, but there have been times when I'm like, I know from the minute that we're doing this scene, that just the energy changes, and you're like, I'm not what you want.
There's nothing worse.
But in a way, because you're like, well, that was what I was going to bring. Like, that's what excited me about this project. So if we're not aligning, then fine. But yeah, there've been times when I'm like, I'm not. This isn't for me. So that's probably the closest that I can offer.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Stephen, I feel like you've got one because you're smiling.
I've got one which is that in real life, which is that kind of, is it running along? I think I must have been about 23, 24, something like that. Back we used to live over in Plumstead, so it was a schlep to get into town when you had to go for an audition. Do you know what I mean? It was a tricky situation. So I remember rushing to get into town to go to this. It was an advert to get into town, and he'd asked me to wear a white t-shirt, and I was like, oh no. So rushing to get into town, and then finds the gaff, goes up these massive stairs, and you're sweating, cold, take my coat off, woke up. I can't remember what the advert was for now. Gets up there, and it's exactly what I had said. But I remember stepping onto the top of the stage, on the door, going, "Hello, Stephen Graham, yeah, I'm here for the whatever it was. Might have been Camberwell soup or something like that, or Ange beans or something silly. I don't know. I was like, yeah, Stephen Graham. She was like, oh, okay, go through there, go around there, and just wait in the corridor. And I'm like, okay, thank you very much. But to open the door, and then I looked up, and I just went, oh, for fuck's sake! There was a row of 6'2" Adonises. Blonde hair, sculpted features, and then in walks this little scally just looking and going, no, I really don't. And I sat there, and I was about number 14, but watching all of these, and I'm looking at it. Every insecurity I had ever in my physical existence just came to life. I was looking at all these models, just going, look at that. I was like, look at his size, look at his chin, look at his jaw. Oh my God, look at his eyebrow. And then I'm like that, and then I go in, and he go, and as soon as I walked in the door, he went, oh, hello. And I went, all right. Yeah, it's one of them ones where, can you turn to the side? Yeah. Who's your name? What's your name again? Stephen Graham. So, what did you say your name was? Stephen Graham. And your agency? Who's it? And how tall are you? And then that's when I'm 5'5". It was my whole inside was, yeah, it's awful. And then
but as you said earlier, though, always go for the audition because you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Something may come from it. I had a similar situation where I went in for something, and it was like they said the description was a guy on the front of Men's Health, and I was 19, skinny, completely wrong for it. Went in, and I thought, at the same situation, you see all these guys, and you're like, I'm not getting this. And then I went in, and then 3 months later, for the same show, they called me up and offered me a role just because they'd seen me for that other bit, and it was actually a bigger role. So it was like,
wow,
you never know, man. It's that thing.
Know.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, get early access and exclusive content and episodes, click to join our YouTube channel and become a member now. Thank you to our guests Stephen and Erin. Thank you to Isabel and the team at Public Eye. And as always, thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp.